We go. Okay, guys, I am sitting here with Monica from Mo for Paws. She is the founder of this amazing animal rescue. We're going to talk about Mo for Paws, their mission, what makes them different, and just maybe a few tips on growing your own social media brand. And we're also going to talk about tips for new moms, babies, and juggling animal rescue, and just kind of juggling life in general, and some do's and don'ts of what to do with animals and babies. So, hey, Monica, how are you today?
I'm good, Liz. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to talk about all these fun topics.
Yeah, me too. I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you. I know you're busy with like I said, new mom, animal rescue, all sorts of stuff, but I appreciate you taking the time out and chatting with me today. And first, I want to know what got you into animal rescue and what made you say, I want to start my own.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I've been an animal lover, growing up. Like our family, we've always had animals and I was always surrounded by animals. And my parents were, I remember just even being a little girl, like actually I got taken to a shelter. I wanted a dog so bad. And so they took me to one of the shelters. And, we rescued one. And ever since then, we've had cats and dogs and everything. So I've been really, it's just something that's really drawn me to animals even since I was a little girl, and just something that now I'm just like super passionate about, and obviously becoming more knowledgeable about certain situations, especially in our animal shelter system. It just really aligned because there's a huge love there to begin with. And then it kind of translated into starting Mo for Paws.
Awesome. That's awesome. And what is it about Mo for Paws? Like, what is your main mission? What is the main purpose of your brand?
Yeah, so we are a 501c3 nonprofit animal rescue organization. So we focus on rescuing dogs and cats, specifically from shelters that are a little more on the, I guess you can call them the high kill side. So my team is located all throughout California. So we have partnerships with a number of shelters down in Southern California, Northern California, Central California. So we've kind of try to touch everywhere in California where animals need us the most, and they need some extra help with in terms of getting out of those shelters and into really good homes.
That's awesome. That's so great. And that's California is definitely a state that needs it. We do have a lot of, the overcrowded, the underfunded, kind of more rural
Absolutely.
shelters. And that's really, we need as much help as we can get. And tell me about like Mo for Paws and, just getting the name out there. And you have some people that are big followings on social media that really are helping you out with like brand awareness and things like that. How did you grow? Like where did it start and how did you grow to where you are now?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So basically, it really just, a lot of my friends are very, like-minded individuals when it comes to animal rescue and just in general when it comes to animal welfare and compassion towards animals. So when I really wanted to, start something on my own, and also, outside of just being an animal rescue organization, kind of have some additional areas that we wanted to focus on, especially from like an adoption experience perspective that we talked about a little bit before, where we have an adoption wish list and we really want to make it a very good experience for someone to adopt an animal and also get that awareness out about adopting and rescuing animals more, right? So
Right.
we kind of just came together, and I was telling my friends kind of the idea about starting Mo for Paws. And, it's again, it's really nice just having very compassionate, like-minded people already in my circle of friends. And it made it a really fun experience to kind of get this off the ground, because we all really stand by what our mission is. And it's really fun for all of us to do this. So we have a number of people on the board that, are in very different spheres of life too. We have some people that came from different backgrounds where, Ashley started A. Marie Jewelry. So she's in that space as well, but she's a huge animal lover and has rescued. And we're kind of aligned with now creating the All Paws on Deck jewelry line that's going to help, like the proceeds from that all go towards funding for our first Mo for Paws adoption store in the near future, right? Then we have Daniela, who is, a just stand up woman who has been, so vocal about animal welfare and compassion towards animals. She's vegan, and just everything really aligned with what we're trying to do when it comes to even companion animals. So she was really excited to be a part of this. And just, so everyone on the board, first and foremost, it's really nice because they're really close friends, but we all, again, have the same mission and we believe in the same thing about helping with companion animals, even though we've all come from different spheres of life and even different backgrounds. But it's a very nice blend of the team that we have. So
That's great. That's awesome. And I love how you say you come from different spheres of life or different backgrounds. And I feel like that's what it's all about. It doesn't matter that like one's a jewelry and the other one
yeah,
is more, I don't know, like fashion or, whatever
an
they come
ethical
from. Like
entrepreneur, exactly.
every
Right?
aspect of that is important and a huge asset, to
Yes.
any like team. And it seems like you guys are doing a really great job. I
Thank
mean,
you.
I love the idea of the jewelry. And you spoke earlier about wanting to one of your missions or part of your mission or your purpose is to create a better adoption experience. Let's go into that a little bit more.
Absolutely. So, it's been interesting because once I kind of got into the rescue world, outside of some other areas that we're focusing on, just in terms of even just generally rescuing an animal out of a shelter, talking to just people who have animals, sometimes you hear it's not the easiest experience sometimes if they did want to rescue an animal or go down that avenue, or let alone there's not too many people necessarily that would want to sometimes kind of go into some of these shelter environments, right? So then they look at different outlets of ways to purchase or get an animal. So I wanted to kind of come up with, and just given my background was, coming from the corporate world as well, and being in sales, and it's all about the customer experience. And even after someone even makes a purchase, whether that's of software or something else, it's after that too, like the retention and how are you going to keep that customer happy. And what I kind of wanted to translate all that into our adoption process, right? Where we wanted to make it more tailored to someone, where we truly understand their needs and what they're looking for from a criteria perspective with an animal, and almost in a way match them with what they're looking for. So help them along in that regards, right? And then also just give them this really nice way of adopting or rescuing an animal. So again, they can go that avenue versus maybe another avenue. And then they can get the word out that, hey, I adopted or I rescued this animal. And it all like really aligns very nicely. And it's just a win on both ends. It's a win for us because the animal's adopted into a wonderful home with a family. And then it's a win for them because everything lined up with what they were looking for, depending on their specific situation, right? And at the end of the day, they saved a life because they adopted or rescued an animal. And that's what we're so happy about. So
That's awesome. I love that idea because you're correct. I'm unfortunately like, and it's kind of one of those things where it can be really tough, to reach the rescue and adopt an animal through that route. But I that customer experience and making it more than, I think we said before when we chatted, more than a transaction.
yes,
It's more than just kind of like, hey, here's the adoption fee, here's the pet. See you
absolutely.
later.
There's more of a
Yeah.
relationship there too. And then we're here also as a resource. So obviously, getting an animal, whether you've already have an animal or whether it's your first time with getting a dog or cat, we're here as a resource to kind of guide you with best practices of when you have that animal, what to, just so everybody's aware, because again, it's a long-term commitment and we just want everybody to be on the same page and also be set up for success with having an animal. So
Yeah. That's awesome. I love that. That's really great. That's good to hear. And so congratulations is in order, by the way. I mean, I know it's been a while. How old is?
oh, so Landon's going to be, it's crazy. The time's flown. I know even since we last spoke, but he's going to be
Yeah.
6 months at the end of this month.
Oh, really? Wow.
It's
Why did I
gone
think it was
by.
longer? I thought he was
Yeah,
almost
I
a year for
know.
some reason.
Yeah, no, it's crazy how quickly in a way it's gone by. And even with, some days you feel like they last forever because you're definitely tired and underslept and everything. But then when you really think about it, it's just like, oh my God, you're not this little baby anymore. Now you're 6 months old about to crawl. Like it's just
Yeah.
milestones. It's really cool to go through. And it's always changing. So he's always keeping me on my feet. That's for sure.
I remember last time we had the tummy time. I think
Yeah,
I
I
was
know.
laying on the floor
Last
the
time
other
we were on
day
a
and I was like,
tummy
oh,
time
tummy
back. Right.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Right.
It sounds
Now
like
I'm going to be
fun. I've
running
kind of
around the
started
house.
incorporating that into my like routine every day.
Yeah, I'm actually sitting on the tummy time mat as we speak. So.
And how has it been? Just, I mean, I know like Mo for Pauses has been around for quite some time, right? Like
Yeah,
it's
so we
been longer than a
launched,
couple of
we
years.
officially launched in 2018. So yeah, it's been
Okay.
a few years now.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, that's, oh gosh, and that's gone by so fast too. I just remember even just getting started with all of this. But yeah, so we've been around for a few years, and
Yeah.
definitely this past year with COVID, it's there's been a lot of changes. I mean,
Okay.
definitely good changes, as we talked about, for the animals, where there was definitely a very high demand for companion animals during the time when everyone was home this past year. But yeah, a lot has changed over the past couple of years, that's for sure. So
I bet. Yeah. And how has it been running a rescue? And even though it's well established, but you still have to keep up with all of the adoption lists and the adopters and things like that.
yeah.
And also having a baby. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah. So it definitely, I got to say, a key thing here is time management. That's for sure. So definitely, I am very structured now with my time, more so than ever, just because I have to be, right. Because in order to
Right.
accomplish everything that I want to get done, like I did before, I definitely need to have some structure and schedule around that, just to make sure I can, the time I do have that's free, everything's very maximized now. So we can still be very efficient and get what we
Yeah.
need to be done. But I do have to say a huge thanks to my team. Like I said, we're all dispersed all through California, and everyone has played such a pivotal role in Mo for Paws and where we are today. So I'm so grateful for all the girls on my team. And actually, a funny story, it seems like, though, everyone has been so wonderful, and we've been all paws on deck, I guess you could
Yeah.
say, especially during, this time with getting people animals and rescuing still in all our efforts. But a lot of the girls on my team have now recently just had babies, or we were all
Yeah.
pregnant at the same time. So it was a very kind of cool transition where we were all going through this at the same time. But we all just really just we knew what we needed to do, and this was still, again, this is something that's really important to all of us. And at the end of the day, it's all about the animals. So we just made sure to just maximize the time that we do have, especially with having a little one like this. So
Yeah, yeah. Takes up a lot of your time. I saw a
oh,
quote the other day, and actually it was right after we spoke, that said, and it made me think of you and also myself, because I'm terrible with like focusing on like one thing for like a long time kind of deal. But it said, stop focusing on like, or like focus on managing your time and also focus or something like that. And I was kind of like, oh yeah, that's like what we talked about. How you said, you kind of prioritize and focus on the things that are
exactly.
like immediate and get to the other things that can be done
More
later.
so than ever now, right?
Yeah,
You just have to know what you're going to be doing each day in and day out, and like the time that you do have, just really make the most of it.
that's awesome. That's great. And what are some, let's say, even without animal rescue, some do's and don'ts? So let's start with some do's with potentially, introducing a new baby into the home with animals, with pets.
Absolutely. So, and this is just generally, even if there isn't a new baby involved, right? There, people, when we try to make people realize, is there's always this transition period, right? Whether an animal's coming into a home with no other animals, with, no kids, just
Yeah.
even with a single professional, there's always that transition period. And you just want to make sure, first and foremost, that the environment is not overwhelming, especially for an animal. And so when you add in other factors like a baby, or even young kids like toddlers, or even another animal, whether that's a dog getting introduced to a cat, or a cat with a cat, there's a process, and you have to ease into it. So we're just very conscious of that, because obviously, being an animal lover and having animals myself with cats and dogs, just that introduction, and making sure that on both ends, right, that
Yeah.
everything's good for the baby, first and foremost, from a safety perspective. Everything's good for the animals, where, they're not, and this happens, like, animals, they have emotions. And if you're all of a sudden now not spending any time with them, or if it feels overwhelming for them in the environment, that's when things can start to change and some disruption can happen, right? So we obviously want to give everybody the space that they need from a first initial perspective, and just really ease into it. So they are aware like there's a new member of the family. It's not a fur baby,
Right.
but it's a real baby this time.
It is, yeah.
And just everybody just feels comfortable and eases into it, and is getting it just getting everybody used to the new change. That's what we're really big on, and just easing into that piece where it's not just like, let me just put the baby right in front of you, and it just there's a process. Like we made sure that everybody saw the baby for a couple days. Like there's some sniffing, there's some smelling. We're giving them attention and the affection still, that your mom and dad, your human family is still like, we love you, and nothing's changing there. We just have a new addition now, and then vice versa, and just let everybody get used to it. So
It's cool. I love that. It's almost very similar to like decompression after, for
exactly.
a dog, like coming out of a shelter and things like that. And I think that I was reminded of a little talk that I had with someone else, and he said, anytime you introduce a new animal into the home, remember not just the big moments, because I feel like a lot of people focus on the initial introduction and the initial this and the initial that. And you essentially said the same thing as well. I made a really good point of those little moments, that attention, that,
Yes.
let them still experience, your love, your attention. And so there's no like envy or confusion or
Right.
overwhelming,
Not a huge
moments.
disruption then at that point. Right. Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. Like that. So make it kind of a small little disruption, not like a big giant change. I like that. That's a
Baby
really good
steps,
point.
literally baby steps.
And so what would you say are like the first, like the major two don'ts that pop into your head when it comes to a new baby and animals?
So I would just say, don't, like, on both ends, right? Don't smother the animal. Like, don't have the baby right in its face right away. Like, don't, and then vice versa, don't let the animal just come right at, because you just never know from a reaction perspective what could happen. But I would say, just let everybody keep a distance and see from a distance first how everybody's reacting. Like, animals are really big on smell too, right? And just like, so they can see that the baby's here, they're starting to, like, as a couple days go by, okay, this thing's here, I'm like, nothing has happened to me, I'm safe still, my people are still here, everything's more normal. And then it's like just easing into it with, even like as you would introduce two animals together, right? You kind of, like, for two dogs, what we always try to do is outside, we take them on a walk, we let them sniff, but then we give them their space and we just let them walk together. And then you come a little bit closer, and then you take them inside a house, and then you start to take off the leashes, and then you start, so it's all a little process. So I would just say, like, one of the biggest things again is just letting the everybody get comfortable with this new situation, so that don't smother on either end, right? Where you just can expect something right away to happen. I just like to give it time. And then obviously, like, just as you would with bringing a new animal home, like, just setting up the house from a perspective where, they call it with babies, baby proofing, right? And when you bring home a new dog, it's like dog proofing or cat proofing, right? So you just want to make sure everything is in order that needs to be in order, where they can have their space, where they feel comfortable still, and they have their bed and they have their toys, and then the baby has its area as well, where so again, it just, I feel like it's just blending everything together, but in a very, like, but ease into it, and making sure everybody feels comfortable still.
Yeah, I feel like in today's world, we are so focused on the now and like
Yes.
immediate, and we kind of, it's hard because you see like videos on Instagram and on the internet and YouTube of babies and dogs like cuddling.
And it's so cute. Exactly.
So cute. So it's almost like when you have that excitement
that
of not
first
only
day, you want that to happen.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. And so it's really just kind of the same theme of just wait, the longer, the kind of like the slower you go, and let them transition into it, the more likely it'll be that they, bond
It's
just like that.
and then it's really good, and it just, there's no issues then. Exactly.
Yeah. And I do, I like thought of you the other day. I'm surprised I didn't like text you or anything about it. I don't know if you saw in the headlines, I think it was about a week ago, where there was an influencer who euthanized their dog because they were worried about aggression with the dog. Did you
Yeah.
see that?
I think I didn't read, I have to say, I didn't read the whole article, but I
Yeah.
heard couple things about this, and I got to do a little more research and read it myself first and foremost. I
Yeah.
didn't read the whole thing, but I did hear something about this play out.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's tough because I mean, I think it brought it to reality that that's a real thing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
whether, there are different multiple perspectives on and all of how, it could have been avoided and there are other options and things like that. But
Right.
and
Right.
it's just more so bringing up the point of it's how you mentioned that it's a long-term, like adoption. Pet adoption is a long-term thing.
Yeah.
I
It's
feel
a
like the
long
relationship
commitment.
with
Right.
babies and kids is a very long-term thing that kind of takes the shape.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's just, it's setting yourself up for success, setting the animal up for success. And there's with things that you can obviously do to ensure that as well. I mean, sometimes there are external factors that happen and could
Right.
be something from its history where you just never know in some situations what is the cause behind that or what could have happened before, especially if you get a dog a little later in life when you never had it growing up and what could have happened
Yeah.
to it. But there are ways just to ensure from a safety perspective too that everything is, for the
Yeah.
most part set up where you can try to just make sure nothing happens. But
Yeah. I say
sometimes
the biggest one, would you agree, is boundaries?
boundaries. Exactly.
Boundaries for sure. Yeah, I agree. Okay.
I
Well,
agree with
off of
that.
that kind of somber topic, and we'll talk a little bit on more sun stuff. And then, so you mentioned our last little topic here. I'm going to like spring it on you. I know we were going to only like do the new mom stuff, but remember how we talked about that there were a lot of dogs getting away from like newly adoptive owners and things like that. And we kind of mentioned that there could be a couple of things that people could do as new owners to sort of prevent any sort of door dashing or, getting away basically within the first just few hours after
Yes.
adopting a dog.
Yes.
Any advice or tips that you have that people could hear
I
for
think
that?
it goes back to like what I'm learning now as a new mom with baby proofing, right? So now, for example, that Landon is kind of getting on the move where he's going to start crawling and moving and he's grabbing things. You have to set up the environment in a way where it's safe for them. And so things like that, the percentage of something happening like that then goes down. So when you get a new dog, obviously it's in a new environment with you bringing it into your house, especially out of a shelter environment. And yes, your house is definitely not going to be as chaotic and it's going to be like, it's going to be decompressed already getting out of a shelter environment, for example. However, though, it's a new place and it's a strange place for them. And they might get scared, they might feel anxiety. And if you leave a door open or if you let the dog in the backyard and you don't have a fence set up for it, the first thing it's going to do, because it's not used to your home, is it's going to dash or try to get out in some situations, right? Every situation is obviously very different, but these are things like there's things you just need to be very conscious of, especially in the first week or two of adopting a new animal, for the most part, and just setting up your house where it has a place where it's comfortable and it might not be so chaotic first and foremost in your house, especially if you have family members. You want to give it a quiet place just to decompress for the first day or two. That's what I always tell people first and foremost. And just to get used to you guys as well, right? Again, just ease into that because you are new to the dog. And then secondly, just setting up the house to be, dog proof. So it can't get out or escape. And it's safe. And even things in the house, because, as like even with animals, there's plants you have to be conscious of. There's certain foods as a dog owner that you wouldn't have thought about before that you can't give your animal because it's actually dangerous for them. So there's a lot of different areas you can get into when it comes to just having a safe environment for an animal. But I think it's just something that it's just sharing best practices and being conscious of whether it's a baby or whether it's a fur kid at this point for you, right? So
Yeah, totally. I like that. I like that a lot. One major thing that I always didn't think about before is don't have xylitol products that you can give the
yes,
dogs, because I had no idea.
you have no idea, or even plants,
Peanut
because you
butter
might have
and
flowers
plants.
in your living room or on your
Yeah.
dining table, and even if a cat jumps up there and starts with a lily, like, I mean, that could be a very dangerous situation, and you just so innocently you don't know. You just don't know. That's why we just try to make everybody aware all this and share some best practices. So again, everybody's set up for success, and the animal can then stay in the home and not have to transition. And it's just, then it's a, long-term thing. So
I like that. And I like the idea of giving them a little quiet space, like a quiet room or a corridored section. So basically, pretty much, guys, plan on the dog trying to run out the door,
yes.
plan on the dog trying to eat a plant,
Yes.
and plan on them needing like a little quiet space and in a place where they can be completely left alone, nobody going to bug them or anything like
Right.
that.
And they're just not smothered in those first couple days. Because yes, you do want to cuddle, and dogs are so loving, and they do have that unconditional love that you just can't explain, that you want from your dog or cat, for that matter of fact. But you got to give them a couple days to just adjust and get used to you, get used to the environment. And then trust me, you're going to get all the love you want. So,
and all the baby cuddles and all the cute
and all the baby cuddles and all that will happen. It's just, you got to be a little patient.
So like, we just got to manage our time, manage our focus, and take our, let it happen. Let the transition, slow transition go.
Exactly. Exactly.
I love it. I love it. Well, Monica, thank you so much for talking with me today and offering that advice. I feel like it's really, really great advice. Usually we hear a lot of the setting the boundaries is kind of the typical stuff, but I love how you mentioned allowing it to blend slowly, into that, like instead of just sort of
throw
mixing them together.
Right.
Yeah, throwing them in there and mixing them in, like just kind of let them slowly blend in together, and it'll happen.
Yes.
I love
and
that.
And sometimes it happens faster, and sometimes it can take a little bit of, it could be a slower process, but you're going to get there at the end of the day. So just be patient and just go off the cues too, right? Because every situation is different. It could take a day, it could take a week, but just go off the cues, and you'll be able to see from a body language perspective with the animal and their demeanor, like how they're feeling. So you really just want to be perceptive of the situation at the end of the day.
I love that. Don't compare it to anybody else. It's your own individual little situation there. I love that. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And guys, be sure to please go check out Mo for Paws. That is their Instagram handle. Go give them a follow. If you can, follow some of their fundraiser things. When you go and purchase a Best Life Leisure collar, use their code Mo for Paws and just give them some support that they need, because they're an amazing rescue. I've been following you guys for a while, and I thank you for doing everything for the animals and coming and talking to me today.
Right back at you, Liz. Thank you so much for what you guys are doing. Again, we're so grateful for this partnership and feel like we align on so many things when it comes down to our mission. So we're so appreciative of you having us on. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you. All right.